Hello and welcome back, and that's right, it's time for another Before You Buy, the video where we talk about things that you might like or not like about any given NAS or data storage product. Now, we've already done a full review of this, the RS422 Plus, back at the end of June. Indeed, we did a lot of Synology reviews last month. Quite a lot indeed, I've got to say, and the RS422 is a NAS that definitely divides opinion. And in today's video, rather than do our full length review, what we do is a nice short and abridged version in the Before You Buys. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you may want to consider this NAS for your next big old data storage product for home or business, and 5 reasons why you might want to give it a miss. Now, before we go any further, quick disclaimer. This RS422 arrived roughly within a week and a half of the DS1522. Two NASes that, although one is rack mount and one is desktop, are actually very similar. And I've got to say, I've already recorded the should you buy for the 1522 Plus, and a lot of the positives on the 1522 Plus are the same as this. So if that has already gone out and you have watched it, then 4 out of 5 of those are exactly the same. So do yourself a favor if you watch that and fast forward halfway through to the other side of the coin with the other 5, because trust me, that's when things change up. But for now, if you didn't watch that or you just want to know purely about this device, let's begin. That is right, this thing is ridiculously compact. I have dealt with rack mounts for a good few years and known about them both professionally and personally, and worked in places that had them for a number of years. This is the most dinky rack mount I've ever seen. I mean, notwithstanding the noise that it makes, the only time I ever heard the fans was when we were properly battering this device when it was doing a hardcore transcoding. It never really made much noise. The only thing I ever heard was the drives when I went to be enterprise. This half-depth 1U rack mount is absolutely petite as hell. And although I am going to talk later on about some stuff to do with rack cabinets and rack mounting, this is a rack mount NAS that I think you can pretty much put anywhere in the home or office. You can tuck it in, in your garage or whatever. It is an incredibly petite NAS that still manages to be very well ventilated front and back. That is right, we've got to talk about it. DSM 7.1, yes, it applies to most Synology NAS systems. It is a great bit of software, probably the best out there for NAS, and it's included with any Synology NAS system. But DSM 7.1, the reason I really highlight it on this system is for such a petite NAS in terms of its dual-core architecture and 2 gig of memory, that's stuff that I'll touch on later on. I will say, this runs everything in DSM, from virtual machines to surveillance to the collaboration suite to the multifaceted backup and synchronization tools to a lot of the multimedia stuff. This does the entire gamut of what DSM 7.1 is putting out there. This is a system that architecturally I think is more like a value series NAS, but still has the oomph and under the bonnet firepower for DSM 7 that I would associate with a prosumer or SMB solution. What I'm saying is, if you want to enjoy DSM 7.1, and one of the reasons you were looking at a Synology NAS was because of that software, you have no worries about this system being able to do everything in DSM. Next up, network connectivity. This system can be scaled up with 10 GBE. It gives you an option to add a 10 gigabit Ethernet port there on the rear there. Synology have got their own range of adapters, and this system takes advantage of this, the E10G22 T1 Mini. So this petite, small little system here, this little 4x1U that again is very affordable, probably one of the most, if not the most affordable rack mount in Synology's lineup, gives you the ability to add 10 gigabit Ethernet later as the rest of your network environment scales up, which again, whether you're going to utilize a 10G switch with a bunch of other 10Gers, or you're going to use a combo switch that's got one 10G port that you're funneling directly into the NAS, and everyone else on 1 gigabit Ethernet ports, be it 8 or 16, get to reap the benefits. This system having the option of adding a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection in its lifetime for future proofing has to be applauded. Harking back ever so slightly to when we were talking about the stature of this device, I do think it's worth highlighting that this system is not only one of the most low-powered Synology rack mounts I've ever seen, with the system arriving with a 100 watt PSU that we barely touched the sides of even when we were utilising this system to its fullest extent. But again, that low power, low noise utilization of this device, more so than just the scale that I mentioned earlier on, makes this one of the most efficient rack mount NASs I've ever seen. And even if you did add that 10G connection, there is more than enough power inside this system to have that covered and still remain as a very efficient 24/7 server solution. And when it comes to rack mounts, efficiency and rack mounts and silence are not things that I would ever associate with rack mounts in any shape or form. But in the case of this device, I would certainly say this is as close as it can get to a low noise or even silent rack mount within reason. The storage attributes of this system are just fantastic. You would think at this kind of storage level and scale and just 4 bays of, that's your lot really, which I'll touch on later on, it has to be said that they did not scrimp on the storage capabilities, notwithstanding that it includes a multitude of RAID configurations in RAID 1, 5 or 6 or 10. This system also arrives with support of Synology's hybrid RAID fluid configuration there that allows you to mix and match drives either on day one or later in the system's life as you upgrade your drive, something traditional RAID doesn't allow you to do without tremendous loss of overall capacity. Then you've got the fast RAID rebuild system built in that allows you during a RAID resync and during recovery from a degraded RAID state and a new drive, allows you to only have to wait for the system to build the drive data that existed. So in the case of this being a 4-bay, you could have this with 4 10TB drives, but if you only had 2 terabytes of data in there, then you're only going to have to worry about the system building those 2 terabytes of data based on the parity. After that, it just zeroes out the rest, and it makes a RAID rebuild that would have taken 1 to 2 to 3 days take just a handful of hours, and that including the likes of the other little storage abilities that are built in with benchmarking tools and with the system having support of BTRFS or ext4 as a file system of choice, makes this a very versatile yet again incredibly compact rack mount system. However, it's worth highlighting that this is not going to be a system for everyone, and alongside those 5 benefits, I've got to give you 5 reasons why you might want to give this a miss. That's right, the fact this system only arrives with 2 gig of memory that can't be expanded really winds me up. I get it, it is ECC memory, which is great. So error code correcting when the data's passing through it, yum yum, self-healing. But 2 gig of memory seems incredibly tight, given DSM 7.1 can get a little bit resource greedy at times, and I know it has intelligent caching to flush the cache when it needs to as things get busier, but 2 gig of memory, particularly on a system that has an optional 10GBE port inside there, and particularly on a system that's going to be running 4 drives in a RAID with those applications and services, 2 gig is simply not enough as far as I'm concerned. If you were going to fix this at a memory level, and particularly given that memory is soldered to the board, even if it is ECC, this should have been at least 4 gig. And the fact I can't scale it up when the CPU inside this can reach the heights of 32 gig maximum compatibility is a real pain in my bum. Next up, for all my nice words about 10GBE, it really gets my goat that this system's only got 2 1 gigabit Ethernet ports by default. Now, to put that into perspective, and this isn't the first comparison you're going to hear, the 1522 Plus, which has got a very similar architecture to this with the same CPU as well, has got 4 1GBE ports, and even that has the upgrade slot there. Synology have got 2 ports here, and I don't know why, because the the PCI lanes that are being utilised by this NAS's chipset and the CPU are just by the rest of the systems connected to that CPU. I don't know how the 1522 with 5 bays of storage can give you more, whereas this 4-bay system gives me less. And 1GBE in 2022, regardless of your thought on 2.5 gigabit Ethernet now, I'm telling you, in terms of future-proofing, and given that most of the other NASs out there in the market that are giving you 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and the fact that Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, and faster internet connections that are greater than 1 GBE exists in the world, means this system can dangerously, toe the line that your internal network is going to be slower than your external network there. And yes, you've got 2 of them, and yes, you can lag them, but why have I got only 2, and why are they only 1 GBE? Talking about a shortness of future-proofing, this system has no expansion support. Again, lots of rack mounts from Synology support either the 4 or 12 bay rack mount expansion device in the RX series, but yet this system does not support it. Yet the RS8 XX series in both the 2020 and the 2022 series coming soon both support the 4 bay expansion. And again, this system's architecture is incredibly similar to that of the DS1522, which supports 2 expansion devices, whereas this supports none. And it really annoys me that systems like this, with great storage potential inside, do not take into account that I am going to want to increase that storage later on. Again, drawing another comparison with the 1522, which I know I'm becoming a broken record now, but this system does not have M2 NVMe slots inside. Now, whenever I talk about the M2 NVMe slots and how much work Synology has done with caching on their systems, I've always been consistently impressed, particularly with larger databases and how things like Synology Drive have been able to really take advantage of caching and make fluid and very responsive file management from a remote location feel localized. I love it. And although I don't like that Synology doesn't let people utilize these for raw storage and only fixes them for caching, I still like the fact that there's M2 NVMe slots in there. I don't understand why this does not have those M2 NVMe slots inside. Again, same architecture as the 1522, which has them, but this doesn't, and I don't know why. And finally, hard drive support, something of a real sticky wicket with Synology in 2022 thus far, and I'm sure I'm annoying someone over there every time I talk about it, but hard drive support on this is weird. Now, let me give you the good news. It gives you a broader range of compatible hard drives, at least at the time of recording, because things may have changed. But at the time of recording, unlike the likes of the Enterprise Level 22 series rack mounts and the desktop 12 bay Enterprise Level NASs that only feature Synology owned hard drives, this system has a broader range of compatible hard drives, and it arrives with support of non-Synology hard drives, which is great news, right? Well, it's not all good news, because when you look at the compatibility list, there's notable exceptions, such as the lack of WD-RED drive, something that's always appeared on compatibility lists from Synology in a lot of their other systems. Indeed, the other 1U rack mounts have arrived with support of it in the past. The same thing goes with 20 TB drives and UltraStar drive there. For some reason, Synology on this system has decided that hard drive compatibility is this weird middle mix. There are listed Seagate Iron Wolf drives on there, there are Toshiba drives on there, and there are some surveillance drives on there. But with, they are leaving out very notable exceptions. Now, maybe this is a slow certification process. Maybe it is that they are going to add them eventually. And at the time of recording, it will, in a week or two from now, it will completely invalidate this point. But I think it's odd, one, that the WD-RED drives for some reason aren't on there now. Yet, when you look at the 1522, I will stop going on, with the same architecture, same CPU, has the WD-RED drives on board, and this doesn't. So it seems Synology are playing a very strange game with these hard drive compatibility lists, and I don't know why. And I think a lot of users that may be reusing old hard drives that they have dotted around their home or business environment, or have their heart set on a preset storage drive of choice, may well not like Synology's stance on some of the hard drive compatibility there. And although they are still usable and you can still put them in the system, as my testing in a previous video, I say previous, it may not have gone out yet, video has shown that you can use these drives. They are listed as on Synology, not on Synology's compatibility list, and they make a point of highlighting in the system that they may not be able to support you if you do run into any difficulties there with these drives. But these are all minor points in the grand scheme of things, for good and for bad. This is a good rack mount, and I love the compact, silent efficiency of this system. It's a lot more powerful than other 1Us of its same kind of design and architecture that are out there right now. There's just a lot of things in which the way Synology have packaged and presented this product that make me feel like it has been designed to live within a certain spot of their portfolio, more so than how to make the most out of this system. But maybe you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. This has been my before you buy on the RS422. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, then do me a favor, click like. It costs you nothing, and I understand what I'm doing right and doing wrong in these videos. Ever since YouTube made the dislike button useless for everyone, because we used that, by the way, YouTubers, it's nice because we then know what we're not doing right. But nonetheless, if you want to learn more, click subscribe as we cover this topic and others in data storage every single day here on the channel. There's links in the description to lots of other articles on this NAS and others. Use the free advice section over on NAS Compares for genuinely free, human provided advice from me and Eddie the Web Guy, and please use the buy buttons and the donate links in the description to help me keep creating content like this for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.